Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into CAEL Live. Today, we're talking about mental health. Hello again. My name is Ashwati, and if you're joining us for the first time, CAEL Live is an interactive series where we guide you through your journey to Canada as an international student. We talk about international student life, Canadian higher education, admissions, and much more. And of course, we also talk about the CAEL test. In today's episode, we're addressing a very important topic, providing mental health support for international students. We have a great panel of guests here who are very passionate about this topic and are looking forward to talking to you. We have CHRISTINA FURTADO from Guard.meCARES, ALLISON HALLMAN from Mohawk College, and LEAH STATE and BASIL Joseph from Sheridan College. So let's go say hello to them. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for coming to our show. We have been meaning to explore this topic, so we really appreciate your presence. I would really like for us to go around the room and quickly introduce ourselves and our roles in our institutions. Why don't we start with CHRISTINA? Hi, CHRISTINA, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us. So my name is CHRISTINA FURTADO. I am the Mental Health and Wellness Specialist with Guard.meCARES. So we look at a variety of different services, not only the insurance, but also various products and services to better take care of students' well-being.
Wonderful. Sounds amazing. Next, we have Allison from Mohawk College. Hi, Allison. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. So my name is Allison Hallman, and I am the Manager of Student Wellness and Counseling at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario.
Wonderful. And lastly, we have Leah and Basil from Sheridan College. How are you both doing?
I'm doing well. I guess I'll go first. And my name is LEAH STATE. I'm the Manager of Wellness and Counseling at Sheridan College. We have 3 campuses, one in Oakville, one in Brampton, and one in Mississauga. Basil, over to you.
Yes, and my name is Basil Joseph, and I'm one of the counselors at Sheridan College. By training, I'm a psychotherapist, and I work with students frontline doing mental health care for students.
So as you can see, we have a wonderful and very smart panel of guests here. So I'm going to dive right into the questions. So CHRISTINA, this question is for you. I want to know a little bit about what are the common challenges that international students are facing in general in Canada in terms of mental health.
Now, it's quite common that, our international students are experiencing very similar experience for our domestic students. While there are differences, and I will definitely leave it to some of the panelists to cover what those are, it's really important to understand that, when we're talking about barriers, it's a variety of different reasons. It's lack of support. It's it's a discomfort with reaching out for support. It's anxiety, it's depression, it's loneliness, especially given our current situation with having a remote type of delivery of access. That adds its own challenges and barriers. When we're talking about those specifically to our international student population, Basil, who works very closely with them on a clinical level, can definitely speak to some of those presenting issues that they come into the office with.
Basil, I would love to hear your thoughts.
You're muted, Basil.
Are we mute? Yes, common problem.
We all do it.
Yeah. Yes. So international students, they can come with a whole range of problems that many of which are common to domestic students. But given the nature of being away from their home countries, away from their families, poses some additional challenges for many of our international students, right? So most of the presenting concerns might range anywhere from just feeling totally overwhelmed with stress, adapting to a totally new educational system and expectations, being far away from family and anything that is familiar to them in terms of social connections, Financial struggles is a huge thing with a lot of international students because many of them come here, you know, pretty much mortgaging and selling a lot of what they have, and they have to continue surviving by working and studying. Yeah, so you know, depression and anxiety can become another big factor. So the range of concerns can be anything from academic stress, financial, and various mental health struggles. Right.
And I'm gonna probe into the question a little more. The conversation about surrounding mental health, luckily, has grown so much over the past few years. But when I was an international student, and I don't know if anybody else on this panel has been an international student as well, I didn't even know at what point I deserved or I needed help. You know, how does an international student realize that, okay, this is something that I don't need to deal with alone, and this is something that I can reach out and ask for support with? So, Christina, if you could answer that question.
Yeah, of course. And I think it does bring it back down to the various perspectives around mental health. And that term in itself definitely has certain opinions and biases associated to it. Not all countries of origin, cultures, belief systems appreciate that when we're talking about mental health, that's really looking at just overall wellness of how our minds are, how we process certain things, as Basil mentioned, certain expectations that we have of how situations are supposed to be. And when they don't actually play out the way that we expected to, we become disappointed, we become overwhelmed, stressed, depressed, and all of these different emotions. When we're looking at that term of mental health, and I know that all of the panelists can speak at great length of this, it's really looking at when there is any challenge that you're experiencing to where you're left with the question of, what do I do here? How do I navigate this? And how am I supposed to make sense of something that is different? That is a means, that is a reason to reach out for support. And every institution has different levels of support. It doesn't mean that you need to speak to a counselor. It doesn't mean that you need to speak to a mental health professional. It could be an advisor, a mentor. It could be attending one of the Guard.meCARES webinars or a support group that just looks at peer-to-peer conversations of, what are you experiencing? And this is how I'm experiencing. I think that with the panelists that we have, we all provide a various level and widespread of resources that international students can feel comfortable actually tapping into and using to better manage their experience. That's really what it is, just making sure that their experience is as positive as it possibly can be for them. And I know that Mohawk has definitely put together an amazing support system for their international students as well that has provided them those various resources. So Allison, please do speak to that.
Yeah, I think what's really important when we talk about this is that a lot of times our students, you know, they're at the college and like Basil said, they've lost, you know, that connection with their supports, but a lot of them have really great supports already. But sometimes it's really hard when you're in a new place to reach out to those supports. We find that sometimes our students are just, they're stressed or maybe a little bit ashamed that they're struggling in the new school that they're at. So that adds that extra level. And so sometimes they need to speak to a counselor, but sometimes it's, you know, it's accessing some of the other supports, maybe some groups we offer for students, or there's online supports as far as like chat support, which is available through Keep Me Safe. And certainly we have the one-on-one counseling. We have some wellness checks. We have lots of groups that are available to international students and sort of on both a clinical level, looking at mental health, and also those that are a little bit more social or just wellness based.
Wonderful. I am looking forward to hearing other like Sheridan College's efforts as well. But before that, we have a couple of questions from the audience, and it's around the conversation that we're just having. So here's a question. Many international students feel like mental health is not an issue worthy of escalating to their advisors or even psychologists. How can we encourage them to face the severity of this problem?
I think it starts with education and awareness. We don't know what we don't know. And based on what our cultural beliefs are, experiences, our family dynamics, what's modeled around us, that helps us build what we believe to be appropriate behavior, right? It sort of dictates what we're comfortable with. So I think that each of the institutions that are here, including what, you know, various Guard.me platforms are also available, do provide that comfortable, safe zone to know that there isn't necessarily this one fit model of accessing support. And it's looking at, you know, we go to our family members or we go to friends to just talk things through. And there's other means of doing the same thing when you don't have family or friends accessible to you. It's looking at it from the perspective of life experiences. And regardless of what our backgrounds are, we are human. We all have these thoughts that we have that generate certain feelings. And then we just act on those feelings. So we're just here as added resources and that extended family, if you will, when they're home, when they're away from home, to say, hey, we're here if you need it. And these are the different ways that you can access that type of support.
Wonderful. And something that you said just jumped out at me is that you don't know what you don't know. And I think that is such an important point. And then using that, I will ask our next question. What does help really look like for an international student? I know, Christina, you touched a little bit on this, and Allison, you touched upon this a little bit in terms of efforts, but what is a tangible solution? What does it really look like? And what can our viewers watching here expect to receive or see in terms of like help when they reach out?
Now, I think that does differ depending on the resource and the means of them accessing support, as well as the various institutions. From a Guard.me perspective, the supports that are available come from the Keep Me Safe program, which is an online chat, telephone-based, 24/7 access to clinical counselors, as well as videos, articles on various student life topics. Regardless of where the student actually is in the world, they can access this support and they can access that clinical network, that counseling network. There's no limitations there. They can also access counselors that actually speak their preferred spoken language. So if they speak Punjabi, if they speak Hindi or Chinese, whatever language is their comfortable native tongue is what we're able to support them in. Then there's also the webinars and seminars that we offer that provides more of that educational piece, building the awareness, which is, again, a very safe place. There's a privacy aspect to it. Instead of walking through an office door saying, I think I need support, students are able to just come into the room anonymously and get information, if that's what they choose to do. It's about building the infrastructure of personal improvement and growth. I know that Sheridan also provides various things and aspects of what that help looks like. So Leah, I don't know if you want to speak to that. You're muted.
There we go. I think just echoing what you said, you know, wellness is customized for every student who walks through our door. And we don't do wellness for our students, we do wellness with our students. So that really will depend in terms of what their journey looks like. It's going to depend on what they're ready for, what they're interested in. And I also really want to underscore, you know, attending to the last question where somebody asked about how can we get folks to engage and help when they need it. I also want to remind people, you don't need to be in crisis. You don't need to be sick to get help, right? When you're well, we do lots of things to stay well. We exercise, we connect with friends, we talk to people, we get advice, there's lots of sort of health promotion activities, we do reading. There's lots of things that we engage in to stay well. So I also think when you engage with counseling or with student affairs in general, which is often where we're located, it's not just about when something is wrong, but we can sort of help amplify what's right and support you in doing things that you enjoy, which is going to keep you healthy and well too.
I think that's a wonderful point. You know, culturally for me, the conversation about like being well, we're not even approaching mental health at this point. I'm just saying that, you know, even with things like going to the dentist or going to an orthodontist is really when you're actually having an issue with your teeth. So I think the point you raised is really well. And I think like in a larger conversation about mental health, looking at it as just continuously, proactively keeping your mental health better, like how you do with your physical health, is a really important point. And thank you so much for sharing that. Christina, did you want to share something?
Well, it's you mentioned like something that just triggered something in me when you said we go to the dentist, for cavities or things like that. But if we think about those daily practices that we do as preventative measures of brushing our teeth every day to avoid having those cavities, having those various support resources available to you is exactly like brushing your teeth every day. It's a preventative measure. It's just that next level of techniques, support, resource to help you gain strength, help you gain this balanced state of calm before you reach crisis, and frankly, just to avoid reaching crisis.
Yeah, that's really well put. Just kind of like looking at it as taking care of your mental health even before something happens. Okay, so let's go into a little bit more about students, and just so that we can guide our viewers a little better, what should their first step be if they're having a hard time? Something as tangible as how it looks like in different colleges, but even in general, like what should they do first when they realize that, okay, this is something that I need help with?
I could go.
Sure.
Yep. So the way I like to think about this is any door is the right door for a student, right? Talk to anyone who's an adult at the college, right? Because sometimes you don't know where to go. You may be struggling with your academics, you may be struggling with your moods or with your relationships. If you trust a teacher, speak to a teacher. Teachers know how to direct you to a counselor or to one of the other services within the college. At Sheridan College, we have student affairs, right? It's just walking in through that door is like the Google for Sheridan, right? And people who are going to receive you and welcome you there will make sure that you're connected with the right people. So even if you don't know what help to ask, if you feel you are struggling in any way, you're not functioning at your best, either emotionally or socially or even financially, reach out. It doesn't matter who you are going to, as long as it is somebody from the college, we will make sure that you connect to the right people and get the right help.
Yeah, I think that's very consistent with a lot of the institutions that we work with, and that there is an infrastructure of support from student affairs, from counseling, from international, from academic. And the one thing that I will say, especially within the Canadian institutions that I have worked with, is all of those various departments are so interconnected when it comes to wanting what's best for their student body, right? And regardless of where the student's from, students' mental health, their academic success are priority. We also have to appreciate, though, that there is that discomfort with reaching out for support, and not, again, part of that navigation isn't necessarily not knowing how to, but not feeling comfortable to do that. So that's where some of our institutions that we work with within Canada have brought in that Keep Me Safe program, because it is completely private. It is virtual in the sense of telephone and chat. So the schools don't necessarily know, nor do their peers or family, that they have reached out for some form of support.
Thank you, Christina, for saying that. And I do want to talk a little bit more about the Keep Me Safe program, but I'm also curious to hear from Allison in terms of support from their college. So even if we're just talking about first steps, I was hoping you could share something for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really important is that for a lot of our students, it's, the stigma of mental health can be really tough. And that's why I love what Basil said about, there's no door is the wrong door. And so sometimes what's best too is to look at the suite of services that's available and look at what's the easiest door to go through. And so I know in our institution, one of the things our counselors do is offer academic counseling, because we know that mental health impacts academics. And if students are really wanting to be academically successful, one of the ways to do that is to really take care of their mental health. Going back to what Christina was talking about brushing your teeth earlier. So really preventatively taking care of your mental health. Sometimes coming in and seeing an academic counselor is a great way to get a foot in the door. And, you know, sometimes it's for study skills, it's to improve some things, and that may naturally transition into doing some wellness work if that's what's really needed. But it's important to know that there's lots of ways to get there. And you don't always need to declare that, you know, mental health is the issue and I'm here because I'm feeling depressed.
Yeah, that's actually a valid point, Allison. And it also speaks to our conversation about not really being able to identify if there is some trouble. I don't want to say something going wrong because that's the wrong word, but like, you know, it's important to just go seek help if you think that there is something that you want somebody's help. You don't have to worry about whether or not it falls under a mental health bracket and etc. So let's talk about the current scenario. Now, international students, like you all mentioned, already have a lot of issues to deal with. The pressure from home, or like just the fact that they're missing their families. But added to that, we have the pandemic happening at the moment. So I was curious to see if there has been any added efforts in terms of like mental health, specifically because of the pandemic. Christina, do you want to start?
Well, it is the case that the panelists that are here all do have the Keep Me Safe program as part of their support resources available to their students, especially for, you know, we've seen an increase of interest within the Keep Me Safe program, given some of the logistical restrictions, if you will, to offering some counseling support to students that are outside of Canada. So the Keep Me Safe program doesn't fall under that restriction. So we are able still to provide that level of support, which is an added bonus, if you will, to some institutions that do have those restrictions of having students still back in their home countries. Because we know, again, if we bring it back to why we need support, or students identifying that they need support, it's just trying to figure things out as to what is happening, why is it happening this way, and I'm uncomfortable. My world is changing and I don't like it. So how do I deal with that? And we're just there to help work through so they have a better understanding, a better appreciation for what they are presented with, that it still is a valuable experience that they can appreciate. And sometimes when you try to get through all of the, well, it didn't work the way that it was supposed to, and I'm supposed to be in Canada right now, and I'm still at home, but I'm still going to school. Those are hard layers to work through. So the Keep Me Safe program is there 24/7 to help them through figuring all that stuff out and making sense of it. But Basil and Leah definitely to start. But I know that the three panelists here can definitely contribute a lot to that particular question.
Yeah, absolutely. I can chip in a little bit. The COVID has added a totally new dimension to mental health, and I see pretty much every day students struggling as a result of this extended pandemic, the impacts of the pandemic. And what's also happening as a result is that a lot of the previous rituals that we had for a normal day, getting up, even getting dressed, leaving the home, commuting to college, even once you're at the college, you have one class in, say, building A, and the next class you have to walk out through campus to building B. And all of that is taken away now, right? Now it is you sleep, you wake up, and you can just switch on and get into the class in your pajamas, on your bed. And a lot of those rituals have sort of just been taken away, and day and night is all together. And for a lot of our international students, because of financial constraints, many of them live in accommodations that are not the ideal. They live in basements with very little light. and that adds another layer of stress on the body, the whole day being stuck inside indoors and not being exposed to light. And so definitely COVID has created a huge new dimension to mental health. And for students who are viewing this, my advice is we have to artificially create rituals during the day, right? Nothing stops us from getting ready. Put on the best clothes that you have, even though you're not going to get out. Put on the best clothes. Before a class, imagine that you are going from one building to another or commuting. Step out of the house, go for a short walk around your neighborhood, come back and sit down for a class, right? So small things like that. We have to be creative, and we have to come up with rituals that work for us to create this distinction between in the day, between day and night, between home and work, right? And we can do that. Just taking a little bit of creativity to come up, buddy up with your roommates to create simple structures to to have a board game in the middle of the day, or go out for a small walk, and without that, the COVID and being stuck at home can continue to have a much bigger impact with winter coming on now.
And I just wanted to jump in as well, just in addition to things that you can do. I know what many of the colleges, so I can speak to Sheridan, but I suspect Mohawk is doing the same as are most post-secondaries. We've moved online, right? So it may not be the same as going to the gym, but you can Zumba. I'm telling you, you can Zumba at 12 o'clock on Thursdays if you want. You can go to an academic workshop. You can connect with groups online. Of course, you can always see a counselor online. So we've moved all of our services online, and something that I try to express to our students. We often say our services are free, but I want to remind people you've paid for them, right? They're not free. You've paid for them as part of your tuition. Have you ever ordered a meal at a restaurant, had it laid down in front of you, and then walked away? You probably not, because that would be foolish, right? Because you paid for that meal. So I want to really encourage folks. You have, whether it's, it might not be ideal. You might prefer to go to a gym. You might prefer to go to the academic tutoring in person. And I can appreciate that. But all these things are online. You have paid for them. Use them, because they will help you.
Such a great point, Leah. And I think the other piece, just to add in there, is that COVID has given us so many challenges, but also some opportunities. And in the counseling world, I'm sure Leah and Basil, you've got the same thing. It has pushed us to move in different directions, to launch different activities. The college is doing all kinds of interesting things online that before we would have said, oh, that's going to take us 6 months or a year to figure out. And all those things are now up and running. There are all kinds of virtual hangouts, clubs, events, really interesting things to get involved in, whatever your interests are. And all of those things are going to add to creating that structure that Basil talked about, and really helping your overall wellness in a new culture.
I think it's also a matter of shifting perspective a little bit. We're so focused on the negative impact that COVID has had, and we're not looking at, well, yes, that's the thorn in all of our sides for sure. We're not looking at what the rosebuds are. And as Allison made reference to, those opportunities, this unprecedented time that we are all experiencing worldwide, have really given us a chance to reevaluate things, recalibrate, get creative, really take us all out of our comfort zone. And when we're out of our comfort zone, that's when true growth actually happens, because you can get creative and get really fun and innovative on things that now this environment, this situation, this culture has presented to us. It's a gift that we have been presented to really look at, what can I do to make this the best experience for me? And with technology, the world is your oyster in a sense, right? And you can use that to really benefit the experience versus looking at it as a hindrance.
Absolutely, Christina. And just to add in there, there's so much that our students can provide us as well, right? And I think that's the opportunity for students, is there's so much student leadership. You know, our students are way better at technology than we are. And so there's so many opportunities for them to really lead initiatives and get things going online. It's been a really exciting part of this.
Just listening to this whole question being answered is like enlightened me so much. Basil, especially your point of rituals, and I was never able to put it in words or even realize that this was happening to me. But I completely was in that situation. I'm not an international student, but there was no motivation for me to not wear, like, I was always in pajamas, and if I had a meeting, I would put on like a formal shirt, but otherwise I was mostly in pajamas. And like really kind of these lives and these opportunities to talk to people was what like kind of motivated me to like dress up, and that really helped me. And I just realized it when you mentioned it about rituals, and something that worked for me. I am not a mental health professional at all or anything, but something that worked for me is like making really small changes. So like, I wasn't able to get ready 100% every day, but every day I would, put on a different shirt, iron my clothes. Like small steps really helped me. So thank you so much for saying that. And yes, winter is coming, and it can get a little dark, as you can see. So it does help to kind of motivate yourself to like be a little more positive. We have another question here, and feel free for anybody who thinks can answer this. At what point do we know that my mental illness or our mental illness is really severe and needs medication or help?
Basil, do you want to start with that one? And then we'll jump in. You're muted.
What I would say is listen to yourself, listen to your body, you know yourself the best. If you are not functioning at the best, right, that's when you need to ask for help, right? And the help might be just having somebody talk to you, right? Having a non-judgmental kind of a space to feel heard and to feel validated is all that you might need, right? And once you reach out for help, then the supports that you are reaching, whether it's a therapist or an academic advisor, will try putting you in touch with other resources. And with regards to medication, yes, if symptoms of mental health like depression or anxiety become severe, the doctors will discuss with that, and if appropriate, talk about medication, but not to be afraid to reach out, because even presuming that someone is taking medication doesn't take away the fact that a lot of these lifestyle, health-related activities will still need to happen, right? If I'm a diabetic, I can't just pop in a few pills and then eat ice cream every day. No, that doesn't work, right? Medication will sort of help to an extent, but then I have to make sure that I'm exercising. I have to make sure that I'm watching what I'm putting into my body. And so the same way with mental health, like sometimes medication might be an option that we need to consider. But even if that is the case, we cannot do away with the other things. Simple things like our grandmothers have always told us from ages: sleep well, sleep in time, get a good night's rest. Don't forget your breakfast, right? Eat. Don't forget that water, get up, move around. And now science is just proving that our grandmothers have always been right. Those simple things of maintaining a good routine with sleep and diet and exercise and sunlight can be a very big part of managing mental illness. And if there is a need for medication, the medication will sort of support that. But that's a decision that your healthcare professional whether it is a nurse that you talk to, or like, a doctor out in the community, or reach out to the health center at your college, and we will help you out there.
I think that there's also something that you mentioned there about those basic needs and those basic things that we do to keep ourselves well. It really highlights that we all have good days and we all have bad days. And that's sort of what makes us human. Every experience we have, every interaction with someone else is going to make us feel a certain way. And depending on the day and the weather and whether you got your sleep, whether I had my morning coffee, I'm either going to have a great day or I'm going to have a really lousy day. And that just makes me human. And we all experience those same things. While unique to each of us, it's important to understand that when we're talking about Mental Health Day, it's really building the awareness that we all have mental health. We all, and regardless of you having an illness or not, you can still have a poor mental health day and a good mental health day. So it is important to get in tune with what works for us to keep us in a more calm, balanced state. But when those days become a little too many, to where the bad days become too many, that's where there's more of a concern. That's where I would advocate for a necessary reach out for support, because you don't necessarily have the tools accessible to you, nor the skills to better manage those symptoms. And that's where reaching out to a counselor, reaching out for a mental health professional is valuable, is mandatory. I'd go as far as to say, because you don't want it to go too far. You don't want it to go yet another day, because that's a yucky feeling. We don't like to feel bad. We all want to feel good. And resources of support, regardless of how they are. So going to Mohawk Counselling, going to see Basil at Sheridan, going to the international department at Sheridan, or even seeing one of our webinars or calling Keep Me Safe. It's all resources of support to make you have a good day.
Well,
that's how I see it.
I think that's good, and I hope that answers your question. And then I know that we're getting, this conversation has been so good that I lost track of time. And my producer was like, we're 40 minutes into it. So I'm just going to wrap up quickly. The last thing I want to know from all of you is something that we ask all our guests, because, really like hearing this. What is your favorite part about working with international students in Canada? Christina, you can start.
I think that's probably the one question I didn't want to be the one to start with. What do I like about international students, working with international students? I'm a sponge for learning. I always want to learn more. And I think that the best way that I can learn is from other people. And every time I come in contact with an international student, I learn so much. And it really helps me improve my own practices, my own strategies, and even my own lessons. So I look at international students as my teachers, so I can better my craft.
Beautiful. Who wants to go next?
I can speak next. In my role, I don't have the opportunity to work with that many international students directly. We have a large group of counselors, of which some of them are directly responsible for international students. And one of them said it so well when she said, I get to travel the world every day in my job. And it's just such a great way to look at it, because, we talk about the risk factors of, being in a new culture and students having to have like their mental health issues and also adapt to a new culture. But when they come and see us, we're also getting to learn about their culture. We're getting to learn what's different in their countries. And it's such a rich experience.
And I'll just quickly jump in, similar to what Christina said, all of our students are our teachers. I would say, and I'm every day, is in particular when I see our international students and how they role model risk-taking and grit and tenacity and courage, bravery, doing all the work that a student has to do, which is immense, and doing it in a new country, sometimes with a new language, with their family and friends far away, in a really cold climate, between December and March. I am just so inspired by those acts of risk-taking and bravery and courage every day.
Yep. For me, the word hope comes to mind because I see international students as carrying so much of hope. They sort of embody hope, not just hope for their own lives. For a lot of our international students, their entire family, they're carrying the hopes for their whole families, right? For their brothers and sisters. And just this morning, I was trying to validate and encourage a student who's just 20, and I was telling her, can you imagine, you're coming from India, and she lived quite a sheltered life at home with mom there to cook and dad there and brother to take care, and now, at 20, coming out as a young woman to a totally foreign country, adapting to the culture, working full time, no, working part time, studies at the same time. And I was telling her, can you imagine, this is something that grown-ups and adults do. And I think it's sort of sunk in for her that she's not only carrying hope for herself and her future, that she's sort of carrying the hope for the whole family. So that's something that really stands out. Just like Leah mentioned, the grit, the resilience, the tenacity that students bring, and the courage to sort of go out to a total new place and establish themselves there, right? So
the reason this question is my favorite question is because I can really it gives me goosebumps, and every time I hear such positive things, and Basil, again, you hit it right on the mark. We are so focused on our end goal that we forget all the small achievements we make throughout. So it's a good thing to keep checking in and letting students know that whatever you're doing right now is an achievement in itself. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. Your time here is really appreciated, and I'm sure prospective and current international students will find this very informative and helpful. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any last closing statements, please do. The floor is all yours.
I just want to say to anyone that's watching, keep on trekking on. Everything that you're doing is something that is a true demonstration to your strength, to what it is that you truly deserve. And we are just all here to support you in that journey. However you want us to fit in, we will be there to fit in, but know that you are supported every step of the way.
My last words are, if you need help, ask for it. And if you're not sure if you need help, ask anyways, because we're here for you. We're here to support you, and we can help you figure out what you need alongside you so that you can flourish whichever institution you choose to go to. And we can't wait to meet you.
Lovely, Leah. I love that sentiment. And I would just go one step beyond that and say, if you tuned in because you have an interest in mental health, there's so much opportunity for students to get involved. So please contact your wellness department wherever you end up. I will echo what Leah said. Can't wait to see you.
Yep. And my word is, we are just a call away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. So those were our guests. And if we have a list of helpline numbers, if you want to reach out and ask help from anybody else, please do check in with your college as well. I'm sure any other institution you're part of, I'm sure they have a lot of things available for you. Okay, so that was a great panel, guys. And something that one of our guests mentioned was that if you have if you're seeking help, please do go ahead and ask for help. But also, if you want to help, and if you want to volunteer and help people who have mental health issues, there's opportunities for that as well. Our moderator will also put down a list of helpline numbers so that you can note them down, and then you can go and ask help. Thank you so much for watching this episode. We received a few comments about CAEL lessons, so I just wanted to let you all know that CAEL test lessons will be on a separate playlist. It is called CAEL Prep with Brandy. We drop a lesson every Tuesday. Do check it out. You can also ask CAEL Prep questions in the comments if they haven't been answered in subsequent episodes. Brandy will answer them when she comes live. You can also find answers to your questions on our Instagram account. Our handle is @CAEL and I welcome you to interact with us on there. Lastly, if you are an international student living abroad or in Canada, you may be eligible for the CAEL scholarship. If you took the CAEL test on or after July 2020, or if you're planning to take it in the near future, you can win 5,000 Canadian dollars towards your tuition. I will link our scholarship page below as well, and you can check it out. If you have any doubts, let me know in the comments below. Our next episode will be on Thursday, 5th of November at 12 p.m. PST. Please join us and also invite anybody else who is interested in studying in Canada. But until then, please stay safe and have a nice weekend. Bye.